that went well, and I guess some people went and told some people, and they gave me another slot. And I'm like, got 45 minutes from start to finish, no extra time, so that scared me a little bit, because you can't really run over. Anyway, I'm Stephen Cox. I used to work for NASA for 29 years. I also worked for the Naval Space Command doing some spooky stuff, and as I confessed last time, that I was not, may or may not have been a spy. I mean, I work with satellite stuff, so very loosely termed there. When I grew up in Titusville, Florida, right on the river, right across from where all the launches were. My dad would come in and wake me up in the middle of the night, and we'd go down to the river, and we'd watch a Titan launch, which he worked on when we first came down here, and it would just light up the whole sky, and it would rumble. And when the Saturns would go off, we'd watch those, and people would literally have to put tape on their windows to keep them from breaking. They were so loud. And the river's about 8 to 10 miles across, but I decided to go to work there, like there was any option for that, and there's no choice there. And I got to watch it within 2 miles, so that was much funner. Let's see if we can get moving here so we can get through some of these slides. This is my one of my first engineering efforts. We're already done. We're halfway going through it, so I just that was an excellent introduction. We took a vote, and you did a great job. And they decided to go early because it was kind of full already. And I did ask if anyone didn't want to start, and that would have been you probably. Everyone will tell them that you did a great job. So this is me when I'm 9 years old. So you can see that this kind of dug in a little bit, and it is actually called a shuttle bus, which was pre-shuttle Space Shuttle. So I got all the stuff on here: retro rockets, wheels, parachutes. These guys sitting here, these little knobs here actually come down and open valves. Well, in my mind it does. And it is using a revolutionary oxidizer called CO2. Okay, that will work. Well, it may someday, but if we could do that, then we'd get rid of all our greenhouse problems. So, but I got paid $2 for this. So not only was I published, it was an art contest. I got $2, so I'm published. That was my first published. It was my last one too. So I'm going to try and take you back to the 1960s. I'm hoping I'm trying to play the part here. If this doesn't look familiar, I'm a little frustrated because I don't have my pen pack, my pocket protector. But I actually don't even have a pocket, so that makes it okay. And my slide rule was missing. Someone took it, I think. So I don't remember. I don't actually have one. I probably have one at home somewhere. Anyway, now this is right up your alley because I want to take you back to the 60s. There was a lot of stuff going on in the 60s, and we were pretty frustrated with that other country over there, which let's not name names. But they shot down one of our spy planes. Like, really? That's what you do when you're spying on each other. And then we elected somebody to office, John F. Kennedy, and he was trying to do his best job, so he came in and kind of was behind the curve. They were launching Sputnik, put Yuri Gagarin up. We were way behind the curve. What can we do? But he was fighting a little bit with Russians still, and so he had a huge problem with a war over in Asia, and he also had Bay of Pigs or something. Anybody remember that? And then they had the Cuban Missile Crisis. And my father, in our house where we lived in Titusville, there were just trains after train after train going down to Miami with troops and stuff. So that was kind of scary. I was like 0. I was like 1 year old, something like that, so I don't remember it. So what I'm trying to do here is, Kennedy was trying to inspire the country to bring them out of just kind of misery. And he took on the idea of going to the moon in a decade. And if we tried to do that today, right now, that is insane. I mean, I'm an engineer. I've looked through a lot of the drawings and what it takes to go to the moon and the things that they had to do, and it was just impossible. There were so many things they didn't even know they didn't know. It was just incredible. I don't actually know how he did it, and I've looked at it. So he went to a place called Rice University in Texas, and he said this.
Why, some say the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Bryce play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
So that really energized the country. Now what was going on just a little bit behind the scenes is that everybody in Congress is like, you're crazy. I mean, at that time, it was 40 to 50 billion dollars in 1968 money. So that's huge. That's probably like half a trillion dollars today. I mean, we were spending, up to maybe 5% of the gross national product on this. Now I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff, and if I get something wrong, this is a story. Okay, so don't. Because the other day I was saying 29 instead of 39, and then I was saying 4 feet of this, and 6. I was kind of goofing up a little bit. So anyway, so on our journey to go do this, we had some stumbling, and I'm trying to tell you the story of how we got Apollo 11 there and back safely. So I'm going to tell you things that kind of were a hindrance. And so Apollo 1 testing, we've got the crew in a capsule. We're learning how to do it, and we're running a little more pure oxygen than we're breathing right here. Had a fire in there. You can hear the video, and you don't want to hear it. They were trying to put it out, didn't have a fire extinguisher, couldn't put it out. All the plastic in there, wiring started catching on fire, making all kinds of toxin. They actually suffocated. They didn't burn. Post-autopsy said that it was suffocation. Their heart stopped because they were breathing a lot of chemicals. But when you look at the aftermath of it, it looked like they really burned, but they didn't, because that was not on the audio. So they just passed out. So this was a tough one. If you go to Space Center, and I actually went here 2 months ago before taking some pictures for possibly doing this. I don't know if you know that I'm just a crew person. I mean, a passenger. I'm not paid by the NASA or the ship, so I get to say what I want, pretty much. Pretty much. My wife is monitoring me now. So anyway, so this is the launch pad 34, and they're over here on the side. There's a memorial to them as well. But that's the pedestal that the rocket stands on when it launched. You're not working. Okay, up there somewhere. Oh, well. Anyway, so this is that pedestal. The rocket sits on top of that. On the right over here is a memorial that you can sit down and watch. And these are the cable trays. And one of the things they just did recently, 2017, was they brought the doors out that they could not get off. It took them like 6 minutes or so to get the doors off. So they changed that, they changed the oxygen, they fixed the problem. So they were able to move forward, but this put them like 20 months behind on their goal because they had to figure out what's going on. So they scrubbed out a few of the early launches and combined things to accomplish the same amount. But those are on display at the Saturn V Center in Kennedy Space Center. And as I said before, you're all welcome to come to Florida. You can stay at my house. Not really. So then we started to do some testing. Hey, if we're going to land on the moon, we've got to give it a shot and see how it works. So they built this nice little lander that they could test the limb landing on there, and they flew it around. And so they got this new pilot in, and he went in, and first thing that happens is it loses control and starts flying off to the side, not very far from the ground. And he had to get out. And he is close to the ground, and he might have gotten his eyebrows singed on the way down. So that happened in Texas at Ellis Field. Is that correct? Does anybody know what's in Texas? Ellis. All right. So who was that guy? Does anybody know? Come on, quick. Neil Armstrong. So he had just come over from the X-15 project, and I was trying really hard to put this slide in there because I love the X-15. And so he was the guy in there, and they put him in there as the first astronaut going to the moon because he was on orbit doing a practice docking, and the thruster stuck. And he just kept with it because they were very close to being in the rocket business. When somebody says something went wrong, it's bad. It's real bad. And so he was able to stabilize it and not dump I think it was called Athena. I'm not sure, that's probably wrong. But that's why they put him on there, because he was cool and calm when things went wrong. And you don't need someone when things go right. You need somebody who knows how to do things when they go wrong. So in order to make sure we're ready to go to the moon, we got some astronauts. I wish I could call your names right now, but we did Apollo 10. Now Apollo 10 did everything but land, so that's got to be a heartbreak for the guys that went there, went within 50 miles of the surface, flew around, tested everything but landing. So that was kind of tough. If you want to see this, which I saw like 3 or 4 weeks ago in the British Science Museum, it's there. So got lots of pictures of it. So this is what the firing looked like that day. Wait. Can you see me? Am I blending in? I know it's the pocket pack projector. That's, you know. Well, I want to tell you a little tale on myself. The lady here in the middle, the only lady in the control room, was basically told, you can't come in here. And the guys around her said she's the one, she's the smartest person to do the job. And so she got to come in and do the launch. It was today when I was going through this, I realized Joanne Morgan. I know Joanne Morgan. I work with Joanne Morgan. And I'm like, I know her. So, of course, she was much higher up than me, which wasn't very hard. So here's the guys. Oh, and by the way, Neil Armstrong backwards is spelled alien. So we got Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin. And these guys are like the top of the cream of the crop. And so they're getting ready to go down. So this is them coming out of the O&C building, now renamed the Neil Armstrong O&C building, and they got a picture of his flight suit that he wore. Well, they said not really. It's a kind of a Frankenstein suit. They just put together all the pieces they could find, and maybe one of them actually went to the moon or not. They don't really know. So this is coming out of the O&C building, and this is the rocket they're getting ready to get on. This was a scary proposition. They never lost a Saturn V. They all flew successfully. They had lots of problems with Saturn V's. They had engines cut off. They had all kinds of things. You're in Apollo 13. Anybody remember that movie? So they had problems. But this is a huge rocket. It's over a football field long. Carries a 120-ton payload, which is up until like the last year. We've got the Athena program with the SLS and the Starship Heavy by Elon that are approaching, getting above these numbers. But 7.5 million pounds of thrust for a vehicle that weighs 7.5 million pounds. If you took all the fuel that it would almost fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and it would dump that pool in 3 minutes. So that's the pumps that are in there, and they're pushing that through. So we're not talking some easy little task. Per launch, some numbers I ran across were in today's dollars about 1.3 billion a launch, but per mission, everything involved, we're pushing this is billion, not million, billion. For 3 billion a launch. So quite an expensive program for the day. Now, you look and think we got some rocks out of this, and I'm going to show you some slides earlier, and you divide the rocks and it comes out very expensive. But what Kennedy said was right. It spurred the technology in the country. And even though it doesn't directly correlate to something, hey, this is what the moon program did, they made tons of engineers. They made tons of programmers. I mean, programming wasn't even invented hardly yet. So we got a lot of spin-offs is what they call them. I don't want to use that word. But so Scotty back there, can you give me some power? Because we're going to watch a launch. And I want you, as we do this, look how complicated it is. Everything that's got to go per clock or something doesn't go. I mean, there's all kinds of arms that fall off and move out of the way. Now, some of it is actually in slow motion, and some of it is not. So when you see it moving away from the pad, that's not slow motion. It goes slow off the pad.
Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yes.
All engine running.
forget the pitch. Let's watch that again. So that's, did you feel it vibrating? You feel that in Titusville where I live. The windows are rattling and shaking, and I've gone out for shuttle launches, which are not that. They didn't have any sound suppression back then, so they didn't know really how to do that. That was how it felt in Titusville, 8 to 10 miles away. So I think that's pretty cool. But we'll go on. Anyway, so this is when they get on orbit, so they've got to get to the moon. This is the back half of it is the support module with all the engines. The front part is the crew module, and Michael Collins is the commander or the person who learned to fly the silver capsule there, command module. This is a picture taken from the limb when they undocked. So this is, I've got 2 of these. I'm still worked out. And the little nosy thing on the front, that's where it locks into the limb, and it pulls in tight, and they go through that. That's where 2 doors open on each side, and they go through that to get back and forth. But they've got to turn around and get the limb. It's not in front, it's behind. And this is it. So this is the Eagle. So this is the name, what the name, the other one was called Columbia. And they're going to poke that little nosy thing in the hole there, and they're going to latch onto it, and they're going to make sure they got a good seal, because they're going to go all the way to the moon with those doors open, and they can't have a leak on that. It'd be terrible. But when it pulls out, it drops that stage back, and the legs come out and deploy, and then they're off to the moon. Now I'm going to show you. This is what it looks like. We don't have a picture of that because there was nobody up there to take a picture. Didn't have any little drone ships, and I wasn't volunteering. I'm thinking this is an artist representation. So I was told that there's a certain quality that it must maintain on photographs and everything, but this is vintage, so this is actually of the day. You can see this wasn't an easy task. It shows exactly kind of what they're doing. The moon is a moving target, so you launch, you have to go where the moon is going to be, and then you have to go do your whole mission with the moon moving, and then you've got to get back. So it literally is a good representation of what it does. You get there, you have to brake, you fire engines to get there, you have to brake going around the moon. They braked on the back side of the moon, so they're out of comm and everything. And then they go down and come back up, and dock back up with the command support module, and then they fire their engines to come home. And then they dump everything but the capsule, everything but the command module. Now, when you look at the moon, it's always the same side. It's tidally locked to the Earth. So it's daytime the whole time they're up there. They're not going at night. And that's key because the temperature swing, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then this is wrong, but it's more than minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's more than 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very hot and very cold. So it's not a nice climate. Oh, and they were going about 25,000 miles to get there, and it took over 3 days. Some took 4, depending on where the orbits are. All right, this is the Eagle undocking from the command module, and this is taken by Michael Collins, and they're getting ready to go to the moon. So on here you can see real easily, pretty quickly, you've got the lower half, which is the lander, and the upper half was the ascent stage. So it brings its own launch pad with it. So. And the return to favor, Armstrong took a picture of the command module as they were flying away. Now, one of the things I was looking through this is it was very possible that something could go wrong and the crew, landing crew would not come back. And that left Michael Collins alone. He's already alone by himself, and he has to do everything by himself. But he might have had to fly all the way back by himself and leave the crew. If they did something, the engines fire wrong, there was no go getting them. So they would have had to let him go. That didn't happen. Spoiler alert, okay? All right, so now we're going to get down to this landing thing, right? This is pretty cool.
5%.
I'll go back and tell you everything that happened later wrong. So.
875 feet. That's looking good. Down a half. 6 forward. 60 seconds. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. 40 feet down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. 4 forward. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. 6. Down a half. 30 seconds forward. screen is in. We copy you down, Eagle. Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, 20. Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so obviously historic footage. A couple things. The video is grainy because we didn't really know how to transmit video very well. Now the pictures are really high quality. We could do that, but transmitting video from the moon was a difficult thing at the time. So as they're coming into land, they're getting these computer errors, 1201, 1202. What those are is the computer overloading. It's got too much data in there and it's running out of memory. And they kept resetting it. And there was some guy that was pretty sharp, knew his business in mission control, and he knew they could do that. So the difference between that computer and my watch is this is a forest fire and that's like a stick. And if you looked, there was a number up there, and they literally, as they're going to the moon, they had to change the program, dump it, and then put in another program to take on the landing profile. So there was kind of a arriving profile and a landing profile. Now there was the guy on the ground watching this, and he had a stopwatch, and he's counting that fuel, and he's got a term called bingo. And when he yells bingo, Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin hits a switch, and they blow the ascent stage and they take off. And he was supposed to call that at 2 minutes of fuel left. They wanted 2 minutes of margin to set on the ground. So somewhere along the lines, and this is not historical, and I haven't talked to them about this, or anybody that Buzz is still alive, I ever get the opportunity to talk to him. I did offer not to kiss him one time, but that's another story. It's a rabbit I shouldn't chase. There's lots of rabbits around here. Anyway, so he was supposed to yell bingo at 2 minutes. 2 minutes came and went. And his stopwatch is going, he's got 1 minute left. And 1 minute came and went. And they're getting closer. He's like, okay, they're going to get down. They're going to get down. Now, they had missed the site because there were some rocks and stuff. And Neil Armstrong, he took manual control of it, was flying it manually. And they're pretty sure they were going to go down. They were going to set on the moon some way. And anyway, they got down to 18 seconds, and he was ready to call it, and they said landing, and so he didn't do it. But he's got that watch, he's got 18 seconds, and he kept it. And he took it home, and his daughter played with it and reset it. And so he reset it back to 18 seconds. He said, this is not a cool thing. I probably need to give this to Smithsonian or something. So he got it out of his house. But his daughter's out there playing with that watch. It's like, that's too historically important. At least to him it was. So this was a difficult thing. They're battling these computer errors. They're losing comm with JSC. So Buzz Aldrin is up there manually turning the antenna and switching to other bands, trying to get it in. And so they're fighting like 3 or 4 things, and they're trying to land on a planet that no one's ever landed on before. So that was pretty impressive. So let's see what's next. I can't remember. Oh, this is just going to give you a little bit of a picture of what it looks like inside. I'm not sure even if that's Apollo 11 or not, but there isn't a lot of room in there. They actually, the whole time they're landing, they actually stood up and looked out those windows. So it wasn't a lot of room. And so when the first thing they do when they get there and they've landed is, what do you think the first thing they got to do was? They said, take a nap. Yes. How are you going to sleep? First of all, there's no place to sleep, and you are now in 16G, so you have to kind of stand up, and they want them to take a nap. This has been incredibly stressful for them, and they want to make sure that when they get ready to go out that they have a little bit of rest. But they even did that to the crew back on the ground. They took their best crew and said, okay, everybody go hide someplace, take a nap, get some rest, and then we'll come back and we'll get all geared up. So now we're all suited up. They've got their spacesuits on, and they basically have to open the whole thing up. Polar Donn just went, had to open up the whole thing. Everybody was in a vacuum, and they get ready to go out.
It's a little shadowy, but he said he expected that in the shadow of the lunar module. Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon on this July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I think.
Okay, so there was some debate on whether the word A was in there. One stall step for A man. He said A. There was a communication thing or whatever, so it didn't come through. But that's him stepping on the moon. Obviously, the quality. There's a camera on the side. It's like, who filmed that? There's a camera set up just for this. I think they planned ahead, and they might knew they wouldn't take that picture. All right, so this is a little bit of a size comparison to see what it looks like. That's Eagle, and that's Buzz Aldrin. And so One of the things, there's a trunk there. I think he was looking to make sure there was spare tire was good in case they needed it. Anyway, so that's where all the experiments are and everything. And later they'll put an electric vehicle on the side of that thing and drive it around, 3 of them on different missions. Anyway, I don't think that went very well because they didn't have any charging stations. I guess they hadn't built any targets. No targets were built yet, so they couldn't have charging stations. What else am I supposed to say here? Oh, I was going to start talking about the spacesuits. Somebody over here mentioned spacesuits. So this is a piece of material that they use to cover things that they want to protect. It's called MLI blanket. This is a blanket that goes like in the back of the orbiter or something like that. This actually may have flown in space, but if I knew that for sure, I probably wasn't supposed to have it. Anyway, so this puffs up, and it's got Kevlar in here, and I'll have it up here. I'm probably not going to pass this around. But it's got Kevlar, and it's got gold foil, aluminum foil for protection against radiation, for heat, for if it gets hit by a micrometeor, it's going to grab it kind of like a glove and hopefully keep it, from penetrating them, killing them. But these little backpacks are, they are spacecraft. So it gives them oxygen, in this case, up to 4 hours of oxygen, and it re-scrubs the carbon dioxide out so they can keep breathing. It's protection against radiation. It's got water running through it, not only to put moisture in the air, because that's what you need to breathe, but also as a cooling and heating element to keep them from freezing. Your fingers would just go quickly if you didn't have something going through them. This is, again, Buzz Aldrin looking at the flag, and there's something about the flag waving when he put it up. Well, intentionally, it's on a rod on the top. Actually, this came off the side of the limb. There was a pouch on the side of one of the legs on the limb that he slid this out of and put it together. He did a couple of things. He didn't stretch it all the way out, so it remained kind of like that. But as in 0G, as it continued to unfold, because it wanted to unfold, it kind of waved a little bit. So people think, hey, there's wind on the moon, but there's not. Last I checked. Anyway, this flag, they literally went into a government supply catalog. I think it was like $7 at the time. So that's just how they got it. So we really went overboard on that. But anyway, that's a very famous photo of Buzz Aldrin. And we're going to do one more of Buzz Aldrin. Why is that? I'll tell you in a second. So this is a pretty famous photo because this is probably one of the ones that Neil Armstrong actually got in because he's got the camera and he's in the front. So this is a pretty famous photo. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, one of the problems that I was going to get at, I'm pretty sure Neil Armstrong was taking all the pictures and not letting Buzz have any. So he's like, you're not going to get in any pictures if you don't let me take some pictures. So that was going on. So this is the tracks of them running around on the planet. So the blue is Buzz Aldrin and the yellow is Neil Armstrong. And there's a little east crater over there, but they didn't really go very far. If you laid a baseball field down there, that's pretty much everywhere they went. And that's the footprint. And because there's no atmosphere, nothing to wear it down. That's actually pretty bad on the soil too, because the soil is really sharp, because it's not like sand that's been ground smooth. And so it was a real problem with them breathing that in when they went back in. It got into everything. They were worried about shorting out switches, all kinds of stuff they were worried about happening. But they got through it all. And, anyway, so that tells you how far they were. So time on the ground, what did they do? Well, first they landed, and the first thing they did is they made them take a nap, which would have been incredibly difficult to do. And they probably drank some Tang. Anybody know what Tang was? I don't know that to be true or false. So Neil Armstrong came out, and Buzz had to stay in there for about 15 minutes. I don't know why, but they're bulky suits, and you get one out, and then you got to get the other one out, and they're trying to get out. And there's a story later about that. But he, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Well, Buzz was the first one to go to the bathroom on the moon. So he might have been a little, anyways, one small poop for man, one giant poop for mankind. And it was poop. I went back and looked at the second word was poop. There was an audio problem there too, just like the first one, but it was poop. That didn't happen. But he did go to the bathroom on the moon, but I'm not sure that all happened. Anyway, so Buzz stayed out about an hour and a half. They ran around. I think Neil made Buzz do most of all the work for setting up the experiments, because there was quite a few of those. He went back in. Neil Armstrong stayed a little longer, and he went back to this crater way over. He walked over there by himself. Only guy on the moon. I guess when you're the commander of the mission, you can do what you want. I've actually met both of them, so anyway. Like I told you, I offered not to kiss Buzz Aldrin. He did accept that, by the way. So about 41 minutes, hour and a half, two and a half hours on the moon. They got climbed back in, and so about an hour and a half on the moon, and they're ready to they probably made to take another nap before they go. But there's more to it than just taking a nap. All the guys on the ground are trying to catch up on all their work, make sure all the systems are functioning. They're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Is everything good? Can we actually launch this rocket? You know, this ascent stage. So there's a lot going on. It wasn't just to take a nap. And on the side, they left some things. So here's a little plaque on the side. You can go to the one in the British Museum or the one in the Smithsonian, and they've got it. It's got Buzz Aldrin. It's got their names on it, and the President Nixon. That's surprising. And it says we came in peace and all that stuff. And we've got a gold olive leaf, the flag that they left, which actually got placed too close to the module, the lunar when they took off, it blew it over. And they've got some coins that they left out there. The first coin is every congressman who helped contribute to the program, and a few diplomats around the world that helped out. Then we got the one for Gus, White, Grissom, and Chaffee, and then we've got one for two of the Russians, Gagarin and one of his other buddies. So there was a lot of stuff left on the moon. This one over here is a seismic. They were trying to figure out if there's any earthquakes or anything on the moon. They don't really know because that only lasted about an hour and then it quit working. This other one is a mirror, completely passive. I think in the Big Bang Theory they shot a laser up in a TV show. But you can do that if you want to today. Borrow my laser pin that's not working. Go outside and we can see it bounce back tonight. Not. And there was a camera. They put a better camera so they could see when they launched what they're leaving. And then they threw everything out of the ascent module that they possibly could. Even 96 bags over the missions, the 6 missions, 96 bags of poop. How do you get 90? That just bothered another rabbit. I'm sorry, but 12 guys. Something's wrong. You know. I mean, if there is something right about it, can you please bottle it? And I want a couple of those. You know, that way I don't have to take as much fiber. But they threw everything out because it's a big weight deal, and everything they leave out is more rocks they could put in. Rocks, lots of rocks. So, speaking of rocks, what a lead in there, huh? We went to the British Museum in London beforehand, and they've got these rocks. So we were like this close to Mars, and this close to the moon, so we almost went there. So these were things that we have given to the British government for their support. All in all the missions were about 800 pounds of rocks. Somebody asked me that and got a sticker because they stumped me last time, and I have stickers for those kind of things now. Anyway, one of the things by accident, they had a canister they were filling up with rocks, and nobody thought about it, but Neil Armstrong just started filling it up with dirt, and that's some of the best things they collected of what they brought back. He also, when he got out, he said they were worried they would have to get back in and go real quick, so he took a little baggie and filled it up with about a quarter of a pound, about $20 million worth of dirt, because you could divide 800 by 40 billion or something like that, it comes out to about $50 million a pound. So he literally pocketed about 3 or 4 million, maybe $5 million. They got it back. Now they loan it out for studies, but they literally give them a couple of grains of sand, and they warn them don't sneeze because that's all you're getting is like 2 grains of sand. So, and I have a good friend of mine, Phil Metzger. He's a dirt guy used to be for NASA, so he looks at dirt. He actually went out and had somebody make fake moon regula. It's got a funny name to it, and Mars regulas. No sneezing allowed. So finally, Neil Armstrong gave Buzz Aldrin a camera to take a picture of him, and this is them back in the lunar module, getting ready to go. So something came up, and this is the letter they talked about it, and both of them say the other one did it, but when they were banged on one of the switches and broke the top off the switch, and these are the switches up there. The one that's circling is the engine arm switch, and it's gone. It's broke. That one's there, but you see the little cap, it's gone. And they are like, we can't leave the moon unless we can arm the engine. So Buzz Aldrin was going to stick his finger in there. He said, I can't do that, I'm going to get electrocuted. So they took a felt tip pin, and this is in a museum somewhere, and they were like, whoa, they got it all. It's like, okay, that's one disaster averted. Anyway, but this all talks about that. They both blame each other. They don't blame each other, but they said the other one did it. I didn't do it, that's all I know. So it comes time to get ready to go, and the ground says, hey, we've checked everything, you're ready to go, you're clear for launch. And Neil Armstrong says, okay, copy, let me see, understand we're number 1 on the runway. Okay, apparently it was a big traffic day on the moon. So anyway.
Voice, Attention Army Nest. Okay, I'm going to get the pro. 99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Burn away, Houston. Vector good. Ag side.
So I'm going to pick up the speed a little bit here because I want to get some questions in. All right, this is them coming back. Notice there's no bottom, there's no lander. This is Michael Collins taking a shot and getting ready to redock. They come in through the top and the doors on the side. And the slides on this thing are basically the thickness of an aluminum can because they're going for weight. So one of the things they're worried about is somebody actually kicking their foot through the side of the vehicle. Oh. Well, apparently in 1968 there was another program going on. We should have used that one. Sorry about that. And we're at splashdown. And they landed pretty close to the Hornet, in the aircraft carrier, and they come over with a helicopter. These guys are all in biosuits because they're a little worried about maybe there might be some kind of aliens or something. And those are riding balloons because about a third of the time they came back in upside down, and those riding balloons would ride it back up. And this for sure, oh, somebody finally caught those rabbits I've been chasing. Did you know there's 2 rabbits in there? Did anybody find the other one? Come on now. Quick, faster. What's this? Rabbit ears. Rabbit somewhere down there. Okay, engineering does not translate. The jokes don't translate. Okay? I was going to say, if I catch you laughing, I won't understand why. But this is Michael Collins' wife there in the red, and this proves, I mean, look at the hairstyles. This proves it really happened back then. So this is all of her buddies getting together to watch it. There's one guy in the room. I guess they have to have one. He's the designated driver. So they get back to the Hornet and they put him in a nice Airstream camper, and nobody knows what those are probably. But they were worried about aliens, bugs, aliens, and so they had to spend 21 days in there. So actually Richard Nixon went out to the carrier and said, can you greet him in? And then they took them there to Houston, but they didn't spend 21 days in an Airstream. Not that that would have been too big of a problem. All right, so and if you go to our museum, in the Air and Space Museum in DC, you'll get to see the Apollo 11, and there's that funky little craft I was talking about there at the top, the X-15Y, because it's just cool. All right, so since this is probably going to be my last pitch, since we're getting ready to dock tomorrow, I thought I would get to the end. This is my last day of work. I came in before the sun went up and faked some reason to go on top of the VAB. Something had to be fixed, and the guy was like, you're not going up there to work on anything. I said, yeah, sure I am. He's like, give me the keys. Anyway, I mean, it's very windy up there at night, so I watched the sunrise. So that was pretty cool. All right, so that's pretty much what I have. I want to quickly thank the Princess for giving me the slot. Don't clap yet. But a couple more things. I want to give credit to NASA for the videos. If you see me around the ship, I'll try and answer some questions. And I do have 3 more talks. I'm not giving them on here, but if you see me on another cruise, I've got one on a destination, Kennedy Space Center, one on the Challenger explosion, and also when things go wrong, like GPS blowing up and Hubble and all kinds of stuff. So that's about it for me. So I'll try and take a couple of questions. We got about 5 to 10 minutes, I think, and I've got some stickers for questions. I'm going to start over here because last time I started over here. So she wants to know if there's any problems with the poop turning into something else, contaminating anything else. It's a vacuum, a lot of radiation, anything in there was going to die pretty quick. And everything that goes on the moon stays right where it is. There's no wind, there's no seismic activity. The only thing that would possibly move it is if some kind of micrometeor meter comes and hits it and moves it that way. Otherwise, everything will pretty much be. Now the flag is probably gone because the UV radiation ate it up. Since I went over there last time, any over here? Stickers. He's asking me a political question here. So his question was, is NASA wasting moon money trying to go back to the moon? The government is designed to waste money. I don't really see no way around it. That's about all I can do. I tried not to waste money. So come on in the back. Somebody pass this back there to him. Go ahead and stand up.
No, I know.
Nothing. Okay, so there was the latest thing I've seen was there was a private company that landed a lander to explore the moon, and it fell over. but it transmitted a little bit and it worked. There's some work in the future to put a rover on the moon. We're trying to go back to the moon, the Artemis program. So that's there. The Chinese, the Chinese are working on a program, and so is India. So there's a lot of effort going towards the moon. Slide this back that way if you can, to the man in the blue or the guy in the black. You're just send two back that way. I have some more, so go ahead, blue guy.
Oh, what is this? Oh, this one's a 79? Oh, I see. I'll go with 79.
Okay, so he's asking if are we relying too much on GPS? And the answer to that is I don't think so. Everything flies it, but it doesn't have to just be GPS. Elon Musk is putting up a whole other network which we're using as well to get stuff. They can put up. They continue to put up new versions of GPS. I don't know if I said it, but that computer on there was was almost nothing compared to what we have today. But there's more than one network that's up there doing things. Next to him in black. It was memory. They had to reload the software and put another program there to get from the capsule down to the moon. So, well, they had a way of dumping a program into it, and they didn't have to run punch cards through it. So they already had the program stored there. They just had to basically activate another. That's probably a lie, by the way. It's something like that. Oh gosh, you're really going deep here. So I'll repeat the question. So the question is, Apollo went to the moon, we took more than one shot, but it only took one ride to get there and back. And now the Artemis, I think it's been estimated, up to 15 launches of Starship, Elon Musk's Starship, to get everything they need to get up there. And then if they land on the moon, they've got to wait like a week before they get an orbit back so they can get off. There's some there's a YouTube presentation out there of a guy that basically, there's some technical things that are just not even, it's like, I'm not gonna say it's very complicated, very political, and I'm not real pleased with how it's going, and I think it's very difficult the way they're going right now. Let me grab one over here since I've been like two back there. I've got 4 minutes. What you got? So that was interesting. I know one manufacturer, I'm sure more people were involved, but one of the manufacturers was a company called Playtex. And you know what they make? Underwear. So one of my jokes, which is an engineering joke, is that the astronauts were walking around in lingerie on the moon. So that was one company that was involved, and the reason is because they did very fine stitching. Pass that back to us. Yes, sir. Two more after this. Yeah, there's a big thing about whether he wrote it or somebody else. It definitely was pre-scripted. He knew what he was going to say. Come on now. He didn't think what he was going to say. It is debatable as to whether he wrote it or somebody else wrote it. So, let's just make believe he wrote it. How's that? So I talked about it earlier. The first stage held a little bit under the amount of liquid that would fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. About two-thirds of Olympic-sized swimming pool. That's about how much fuel the first stage, but there's like 3 or 4 other stages depending on how you're going. So this is my last question. I'm gonna have to cut it off so we have time to get the next crowd in here at 5:30. That's what my watch says. It's lost. 2:30. Well, Apollo 10 was not designed to land. The question is, why didn't Apollo 10 land? Well, it wasn't that it wasn't recognized. They overflew it by 4 kilometers. They missed it. So they missed their landing. They missed the runway by 4 miles. So let's hope we don't miss Fort Lauderdale by 4 miles. Well, I don't mind staying on the ship. He overflew the landing site and where they were going to land. This is the last question, and I'm going to cut it off because there's people over there going to start yelling at me. Absolutely. You could, like I said, we can go. Do we still have equipment on the moon that's working? Yes, absolutely. You could go out there right now with a laser if it was the right thing, and you could actually bounce it back off, and you could figure out the distance between us. You know, there's a lot of math and science to it. So there's been hundreds of missions flown to the moon, and there's lots of stuff up there running around. And you know, Americans think, oh, it's just us Americans. It is not. The Chinese are catching way up with us. India, like I said, is going to be working with some. All right, that's all I'm going to take. Thank you very much for coming.